Behavioral objectives. Behavioral objectives create tangible data for the measurement of success, and they're organized into three parts: student behavior, conditions of performance, and performance criteria. An example of a behavioral objective is the students will be able to match musical terms with their definitions on a multiple choice quiz to a success rate of 75 out of 100. Behavioral objectives are the favorite objective of modern positivist education in that they provide data that can be posted in the newspaper and show that your school district is being very successful and is in deserve congratulations and merit, or your school district has failed in achieving what society has decided is important on a standardized exam. This can be very difficult because all positivist information comes from the understanding that the teachers and the people who write the standardized test know exactly what knowledge everyone should possess. Behavioral objectives, in my mind, are only useful in a curriculum in studying the fundamental building blocks of music. That being the building blocks that you can use to increase understanding and unlock greater potential. So, if you're talking about a student's ability to label the pitches on the staff or identify a key signature, those are building blocks that a student can use to compose at a later date and increase their understanding. But behavioral objectives are limited in their creative capacity and do not usually connect to any of the knowledge that the students have when they come into the classroom. Cognitive objectives. They're used to determine whether or not a student understands the material, often expressed using a question that allows the students to discuss the information in their own words. An example of a cognitive objective is, in your own words, discuss the social implications to the song You've Got to Be Carefully Taught from South Pacific. Where cognitive objectives are incredibly useful is they allow the students to demonstrate a greater understanding than anything that you would be able to see from a behavioral objective. Behavioral objectives are great in seeing if a student has memorized rote facts, but cognitive objectives, expressing them in their own words, allows the students to play with the knowledge, to re-express the knowledge, and increases their ability to truly understand the information. If they understand the information and can express it in words that are their own, then they are more likely to retain the information, and they're more likely to be able to find a way to utilize it in their own lives. Experiential objectives provide the students with experiences to instill acquired knowledge into their realities. They focus not on the knowledge gained, but the experience of learning. Objectives include students will go on a field trip to see South Pacific, and students will sing a spiritual. They literally involve the students doing something. These can be very useful to connect the knowledge to the world of the students, in that an experience is something that the student has lived. And in creation of the worldview, it's the easiest way to integrate information into their knowledge base. You can talk about talk about a Broadway musical and its plot and what have you as much as you like, but if you take them to see the show, they can experience it on an emotional level, on a social level, and it allows them to integrate all of that information that you've given them more deeply and more personally, which will allow them to utilize it better in the future. Critical objectives. Identify how the learning changes the student's perception and adds value to his or her life. They utilize student-centered teaching styles to connect a student's current understanding of the world to the subject in order to inspire a transformation in understanding in both the teacher and the student. An example critical objective is through the process of singing Messiah, both the teacher and the students will experience a change in perception regarding the value of the piece in their lives. Critical objectives are the end result. The end result of the students coming to the classroom with their own knowledge base. The teacher integrating that knowledge into the lesson, and the teacher experiencing the knowledge of the students, which arguably is knowledge that the teacher did not have to begin with. And through the interaction of the teacher's experiences and the students' experiences, both perceive a change of perception, and they both are enriched. And the critical objective is achieved when that moment of transformation occurs. So the critical objective is the overarching guide to the entire process. So if a behavioral objective is about sharing the information, then that can be used as the sharing of the information both from the teacher to the student and from the student to the teacher. I'm not saying the student should be giving teachers quizzes, but the teacher needs to be able to demonstrate an increased comprehension of the knowledge the students bring into the classroom in order to achieve, levels of social respect. Then through the cognitive understanding, the students and the teachers can begin to explain in their own words these concepts to each other and how they relate to each other's information. The experiential knowledge gives them an experience in which they are both integrating new information from the outside into their lives. They're experiencing something together. And then the critical objective is achieved when those three processes come together to instill a transformation in the thought processes of both the students and the teacher. And value is increased overall in the lives of all. And that is the best way to instill both the lifelong learning that is a goal for Toms River Schools, and to give the students and their teachers a way to approach modern learning and the changes going on in our modern world, to allow them to be more capable to process that for information and to be able to interact with people with differing opinions. Because in our greatly globalized economy and society, the ability to interact with people of differing opinions to our own and integrating their knowledge into our own experience is going to be something that's very important. And it's going to be something that's very important to a student graduating from Toms River Schools in the future. Focusing questions are the least obtrusive of lesson formatting mechanics, which allows for inspiration of higher level thinking while not predetermining the final course the lesson will take. It's the most favored lesson guiding technique for student-centered constructivist classrooms. As an example, to what extent is this song dependent upon accompaniment? Could the song be successfully performed a cappella and maintain the same aesthetic as the original work? The great part of focusing questions is it does not determine the end result in advance. Objectives start with the idea that this is what I want the student to achieve. By the time I am done with the lesson, I want my students to understand, to be able to produce this information, to have this experience. It predetermines what information the students acquires. With a focusing question, the students and the teachers are just given a context by which the learning will be driven. And this is really excellent in that it allows the lesson to creatively unfold in directions that are unanticipated by the educator, and allows the student-centered classroom to actually become student-driven. And since the learning is brought about by what interests the students as the lesson occurs, it is more likely to add value to their lives, thereby contributing to the success of a critical objective. So focusing questions are the least limiting and the more open of all of the curricular driving methods.